Hey, everybody, it's Becky Rose, and you are listening to the Girl HR podcast. Today, I am doing an episode, and this episode is actually a request from my dear friend Rich. So, I was recently talking to Rich, and he brought up this whole concept of virtual assistants. And he said, I don't really know much about them. I don't really know what they do. I don't really know how all of that works. And I said, I don't either. And in my world of human resources and in compensation, I am constantly talking to lots of different organizations that do all kinds of different things. But I said, this is one where I really don't know much about it either. So fortunately, I have a resource that's going to come on today. Dani Thornton, who is the owner and operator of Flawless Coordination by Dani, and she's going to help us demystify the whole world of virtual assistants. I will say that I am a big fan of Where Do You Go, Bernadette? Some of you may have read the book or maybe you've seen the movie. And in the movie, that is where I've learned everything I know about virtual assistants, which is why I think we need Dani here to help clear things up. Because in Where Do You Go, Bernadette, the main character has this virtual assistant named Manjula, who is in India. And Manjula is somebody that Bernadette is constantly communicating with. And so she says like, hey, I need these things for a trip. And these packages just show up. Hey, I need you to book tickets for something. And Manjula, the VA, just books these tickets. Well, in that book/movie, it turns out that Manjula is really like a Eastern European criminal who's basically stealing. And so this character has provided all of her personal information, all of her login, social security, birthday, all of these things, right? And given it to this virtual assistant who, while they are actually doing some of the things that are expected, they've actually just been stealing all along. So in my mind, I have this idea of Manjula, the virtual assistant, who, while doing some good things, is doing a lot of nefarious things as well. And I don't think that's really how it works. So that being said, I'm going to welcome Dani to come on and help clear all of that up for us. So welcome, Dani.
Hello, good afternoon. How are you?
I am good. I'm so glad that you're here because, like I said, I don't think Manjula, the Eastern European criminal, is really what the whole world of virtual assistants is about.
That's strange because that's actually like my nickname. That's what people call me. No, just kidding.
We'll use that from now on then.
Just kidding. But no, yeah, it's definitely I mean, when somebody's doing work for you and they're doing it remotely or, virtually or whatever the case may be, it's hard to know and to trust what you're getting, what you're paying
Yeah,
for. So I
yeah,
totally get
for
it.
sure. I know I get that too, even just like because I do work with a lot of different organizations and I'm asking for employee data. So, I don't, need like a lot of like the personal information, but I'm looking at compensation. And so a lot of times people are like, okay, like let me talk to you, make sure you're real. And so even if I don't meet people in person, definitely like building that trust and jumping on. So like people have a face to face to build that relationship is really important. So I imagine it's definitely the same for you for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely.
So to start, let's start right off the bat, like demystify this whole thing for us. Like, what is a virtual assistant? How does that work? What do you do? Go.
Okay. So it's such an open-ended question too. Like a virtual assistant is, I guess the best way to explain it is kind of like a Swiss Army knife or like your sidekick. So it's a little of everything, but it's very specific to you and what you need, what your business needs. Which is why I always like to sit down with a client. And my husband jokes and says I'm not a very virtual assistant. If I have clients that are like local to me, we'll grab a coffee or we'll set up a Zoom meeting if they're not, whatever the case may be. But I just like to get a feel for what they need because a virtual assistant is there to help. And that doesn't look the same for everybody.
So how do you go about that? I guess that's initially kind of like scoping conversation. Like, and you sit down, what are some of the things that people need your assistance with?
What I started out with and kind of like what was in my head when I started the company was I'm going to schedule for people, answer phone calls, answer emails, basically run an office for people. I was looking at small business owners, professionals and people who just couldn't necessarily hire somebody full time. Whether that be that they just couldn't afford to or they were just scared to, because that's a big step to make. Just things like that, running the office. And I was quickly humbled that what you think you're going to do is not what you're going to do at all. So a wide range of things that were not included in that very first package that little naive me created on Canva. But I love helping people and it looks different for everybody.
You mentioned scheduling for one, so just helping people kind of like get appointments and kind of essentially running an office in a sense. So, is that things like you said taking calls? So, is that incoming calls if people are reaching out to find out about their services?
Yes. So we actually have two clients right now that we take calls for. That's one has their calls forwarded to us, and like just forward to my personal cell phone
Mhm.
basically. And then one does the Google Voice, and we log in and we answer that here in my office. And whatever that looks like for the client is what we do to make it easier and a little less stressful. But yeah, answering their calls for them because I've got a lot of blue collar clients who are out in the field
Okay.
doing the work and running the business, and they can't answer the phone from 8 to 5. And that really, like, when you're just use home inspection companies, for example, because I do have several clients in that industry, that's going to be a make it or break it for them. Because when somebody calls to schedule one and you can't answer because you're on an inspection,
Mhm.
and you don't call them back to give them that quote for 3 hours, but somebody else had a receptionist and they answered the phone and they gave them that quote, you've more than likely lost the business.
Yeah, the timing is everything. So being able to just be available for people, I can see how that could really have an impact.
Yeah,
Again, particularly for some of those folks that are out in the field and they just can't be on
definitely.
their phone.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's definitely interesting. So, do you have to learn a lot about their businesses in order to take these calls?
Yes, and I'll go back to the home inspection companies. So when I started the business, I wanted to be a VA for home inspection companies, and we'll get into the reason later. But just a little like snippet of the reason is that I've done that. That's my background, and so I was like, that's what I want to do. That's the clients that I want. That's who I'm going to advertise to. I know the system. I know the software programs. I know this, the behind the scenes, the scheduling, and it'll be easy. I won't have to be trained, other than just their personal preferences on things. The onboarding will be easy and quick.
Mhm.
And then, like I said earlier, I was humbled very, very, very quickly because, of course, the first big, huge load of clients that we got was just not even virtual assistants. I mean, not even home inspectors. Like, and I'm like, okay, of course not. No, it's fine. I'll just learn a whole new field. It's good.
Yeah, you're like, This is not exactly what I thought I was getting into, but I can find a way to make this work."
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I guess your story is kind of similar to mine in a sense. If you had home inspection, and so you said, well, one, you identified a need, and you said, I know that these people need some help with some of the scheduling and taking calls so that they can be out doing what they do.
Yeah.
And then in my background, having HR, then I said, I can do this for a lot of different organizations as well. And kind of like you, where they may not have somebody who's dedicated, they may not be big enough, they don't have a need for it. So I think we're similar in that way, that we're kind of bridging that
Yeah.
gap for organizations that have a need but don't necessarily have it as a full-time employee.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, there are the companies who don't want to hire a full-time employee because they don't want to offer or can't offer, whatever the case may be, benefits and insurance and whatnot, which is
Yeah.
where a virtual assistant kind of comes in and takes that worry from them.
Yeah. I think the other thing too, because of course I look at everything through the HR lens, is then some organizations would say, well, I can bring somebody and I'll make them an independent contractor versus an employee. But if they're doing the work of the organization, then they run into all kinds of trouble. Whereas in your role, this is a little bit different. And then in the sense that, yes, it makes sense to have an outsider as an independent contractor who's
Yeah,
not an employee because it's not, the core of the services that they're delivering. So that
yeah,
totally makes sense.
yep,
So,
absolutely.
how did you even get into this? How did you figure out that starting your own business and virtual assistant work was something you wanted to do?
So I had a full-time job, and I was essentially their virtual assistant, full-time, 9 to 5 W2 employee.
Hmm.
And I ran an office for a company out of Rock Hill, and I ran that office full-time from home Monday through Friday. And probably about 3 or 4 years in, I was like, I could do this for more people. I could do
Hmm.
that. I could do a lot more with this. And it was a conversation that I had with that employer because like we said it when we opened up the podcast, you can't be sure what somebody's doing for you when they're at home doing it. So
Hmm.
it was a conversation that I had with him right off the bat of, I've got this idea and I'm thinking about pursuing it. I don't ever want you to think that I'm doing it on your dime at home working this full-time job for you. And luckily he was not just a really good employee or employer, but a really good friend who was totally supportive. And it just kind of grew from there. I thought that it would be like a second job, kind of side gig type thing that just blew up and became my full-time thing. And I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that you were able to get into it and it really was able to grow and become full time. I
Yes.
know there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there who end up in that, they're trying to manage multiple jobs because they have to while trying to get something to grow. So I love that yours just took off and here you are
Yes.
doing it full time.
Yes. Yep,
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
awesome. What are some of the strangest requests that you've received?
Oh my gosh.
Don't out anybody's dirty laundry, but
Okay.
anonymously.
I was asked, I guess there's two that comes to mind. One's not really a strange request. One's just funny. I have a client who I love. I just love her so much. And she just, was sending me all these things. And I'm more of a personal assistant for her. It's a lot of personal tasks because she's so busy at work. And she's just sending me all these things and, doctor's appointments and whatnot. And I get them all done and I text her at the end of the day and I'm like, hey, the list from, that you sent over this morning's all done. You're good to go. Nothing to follow up on. And she texts me back and she's like, I'm going to marry you. Like, well, I'm already married, but I really appreciate it. But that one I just love her. She's just so fun.
Yeah, she
But
definitely appreciated it.
yeah, she did. She did. But I did have a request once that I had to giggle. I took it and it was fun and all was well, but I was asked to write a semi-professional breakup letter. Um, So I did, and I assume it went well. We haven't really talked too much since then. I helped him out with that one-time project, and the rest is history, I guess.
So was this breakup letter like a relationship or was this like a termination of an employee?
It was a relationship, yeah.
Okay, that's why I was like, wait a second here.
Yeah, he was like, I was doing some personal assistant stuff for him, and scheduling some work for him and whatnot. And he was like, we knew that it was going to be a short-lived relationship. He just had a to-do list. And once we knocked that out, he was good. And we knocked that out. And he was kind of like, I just have one more request. And you absolutely say no. And I was like, what is it? And he's like, I just need you to draft a breakup letter and then I can edit it. And I was like, oh God, okay. But, I helped out and well, hopefully it went well.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's pretty funny for sure. So when you say that, like one of the things that comes to my mind is I would have probably just gone to AI for that and said, help me write a really nice,
Yeah.
not hurtful breakup letter. With the growth of AI and the accessibility, do you use any AI in any of your work?
I do use AI. AI for me is a double-edged sword. I do use it. I love the term work smarter, not harder. And
Mhm.
Chat GPT and things like that can just be such a lifesaver as far as time goes. And just ideas if you're in that, that brain block and you can't think of something. Chat GPT or Linda, as I have named her, she told me she was fine with me calling her that. She's such a lifesaver sometimes, but at the same time, I want people to always know that I'm working hard for them and that they do have that human interaction. And I am always here and I am really putting in the blood, sweat, and tears, for them, just like I would for my own company. So it's a double-edged sword. It's great, but you have to be very careful and not let it do all your work for you.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's so much, I always say there's a ton of information out there, but not necessarily knowledge. So, you might say like, create a checklist, a hiring checklist for me, but you might look at it and or I guess if I look at it and I might say, okay, what they're asking for, like they're missing some things or there's some, compliance pieces. And so
Yes.
I agree. I think it's good as a tool, but not as the be all end all, because there's still that human piece and that compliance piece, the relationship that a human has to look at.
Yes. And AI, I mean, it does so many awesome things. And I've learned like the more I've used it, it can kind of, it gathers your personality and your tone and talks the way you talk. But I hope that no one loses, I guess the overall understanding that it's just not the same as you. Like when you do it yourself, you can tell, and there's something to be said for that too.
Yeah, your tone and just the way you approach things, I think that can get lost so easily.
Yes, absolutely.
So, what do you think is the biggest challenge that you face either in the work that you do or as an entrepreneur and business owner?
As an entrepreneur and business owner, and I think probably every business owner listening to this can relate, is just the fear of, what if I don't have the work? What if it's a slow
Mhm.
month? What if I can't get the clients? Whatever the case may be. What if I can't land the job? There's just always that fear there, because once you decide to become a business owner, that that guaranteed paycheck's not coming every 2 weeks.
Yep.
You've got to do the work to put the food on the table, and it's a scary thought when you sit down and think about it. But it's rewarding, and it really pushes you to do it, and to do your best and to make it work.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm definitely in the same boat where some days I'm like, oh my God, I'm kicking ass. This is awesome. And then other
Yes.
days I'm like, oh my God, what if I don't get a new client?
Yes. Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I definitely feel that the same ups and downs. And I agree. I hear that from everybody who's a business owner. Sometimes it's amazing and other times I'll tell my husband, "Oh my God, I'm spiraling. Like I'm spiraling
Mhm.
today. What if things go south?" And he does a really good job of bringing me back to reality and you know,
Yes.
just
Yeah.
creating the actual, what are we doing? What are you doing? What are the actions you're taking? And I say, "Okay, I'm good. I'm back. I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
focused."
You have to remind yourself this is a roller coaster ride that we ride
Yeah.
all the time, and don't freak out.
Yes,
It's gonna be
that's
fine.
exactly right. I know for me though, I love being my own boss. I don't ever want to have to work for somebody again. If I have to, I will, but just the flexibility and the ability to control my own work is to me just amazing.
It's awesome. And
Yeah.
pajamas. I don't have to get dressed. I don't have to put on makeup.
Yes,
It's the best.
yes, yes. I agree. I plan, do I have meetings? Let me do, if I have something in person or even if I'm having a virtual meeting, I try to, plan it so I can block them together of like, okay, I need to look nice now
Yes.
versus
Yes.
pajamas.
And I try to schedule all my meetings on, like, a specific day, so that I know that's the day that I've got to leave the house. I've got to put on real clothes. I've got to, I've got to do the things and try
Yes,
to,
yes.
like, space those out. But yeah, you definitely get spoiled, and especially work from home.
Yes, I completely agree. So, what do you think has been one of the most rewarding things about the work that you're doing?
Honestly, the most rewarding thing, business wise, would just be the people that I get to help. I
Mhm.
have made so many good connections, and honestly, almost every single one of my clients, either past or present, has become a friend on a personal level. We've been there for each other. We text. We've done things outside of work, whether that be events or girls' nights or whatever the case may be. And just to be able to help and also make friendships and make connections like that is it
Mhm.
makes it 100% worth it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Do you have any on the flip side where you're like, okay, we just need to be done with this engagement and you need to move on?
Yes. When I first started the business, when you first start your own business, you want all the clients. I don't
Mhm.
care what they need. I will learn it. I want all the clients. And I learned pretty quickly within that first year that they're just not all for you, and that's okay. It's okay to say no to a
Yeah.
client. It's okay to say this isn't a good fit, or whatever the case may be. And you get better early on with seeing the red flags, I think, but especially as you experience some of them. But I think that's the biggest thing, is just knowing that it's okay if something doesn't work out, or, whatever the case may be. There's a reason for it.
Yeah. I completely agree. I've had the same thing where early on, year one, it was like anybody who wants anything, let's talk.
Yes.
And now I definitely have the ability to say, I don't think that I'm the one to do that work for you, or I don't think I'm the right person for
Yes.
you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I will absolutely try to find you somebody who can. I've got a wide range of partners and people in my networking group that are awesome at what they do. And if it's not in my wheelhouse, maybe it's in theirs. But yeah, you're right. I've definitely learned to just not try to take on absolutely everything.
I will say, I also had one client in particular, and I haven't worked with them for over a year now, I guess. But I worked with them and they were not for me. And the process was frustrating because I felt like they were in it for themselves versus for their organization. And in my work, I want the whole organization as well as all of the people to be successful, so I'm looking for that win-win. And so it was very challenging when the person was really pushing on, I want this and this is what I should get. And it was like, that's not what I'm here to advise you on. And I can't make recommendations that aren't supported by data and, all these different things. So I will say that in that situation, I just kept jacking up the price until I think they disappeared.
Hey, you do what you have to do sometimes.
Yeah. It was like, this is work I can do, but this is starting to feel a little bit icky, and I'm not going to do anything that is unethical to me.
Right.
But yeah.
Right.
So I just kept being like, no, if I'm going to have to fight you because I'm going to have to stand up to you from a moral principle, then I'm going to make you pay more for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You have to, you watch out for your clients, but you have to watch out for yourself too. You just have to.
Yeah, for sure. So what advice do you have for other entrepreneurs and other people who are starting businesses?
Honestly, the best advice I have is to just do it. Just go for it. I would have never, say 10 years ago, I would have never pictured myself owning my own business, working for myself, making my own schedule. I have always worked a 9 to 5, in an office type job, answering to somebody else. And I've never been completely happy doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also never thought that I could do something like this. And then I just made up my mind to do it. And I told myself that there was no other option. And here we are. And I really think that anybody with the drive and the perseverance can do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the drive, the perseverance, and then just being able to adapt and change. And when you say, all right, this isn't working, what am I going to do different?
Yes, absolutely.
So what are you focused on for the remainder of 2025? So we are where are we? We're in July. So we have a couple months left. What is kind of what your hopes and goals are for your organization for the last few months of the year?
So obviously, one big goal is, just onboarding new clients. We want to gain some more new clients. We're at a good spot right now, but we can take more, and we're out networking and looking for those, those people that are the right fit. But one big goal that we have for 2025 is to pair up with a nonprofit. And I have a client that's a nonprofit, and then I have another nonprofit in my networking group. So I've got some good connections, but we just really want to start turning this around and doing things for the good too, not just doing things that benefit, my business and money in the bank and, bring in new clients, but also something that just does good for other people too. So that's something that we're really looking at and trying to dive into before the year finishes.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely. I always think, I live here and I work here and I shop here and I play here. And, for me, it's the same thing. I want my community to be a really vibrant place.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think the future of virtual assistants? What do you think that's going to look like over the next couple of years?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the right answer to that question. I think that virtual assistants is one of those things that's been around for a while and will continue to be around for a long time. There's definitely a need for it, definitely a want for it. I think that a lot of people try to pursue it, maybe as a side gig or whatever the case may be. And then it falls to the wayside when they see that it actually is a lot of work. It's not just sitting by the pool with the laptop in your lap. And, it is a full-time job. I joke all the time and say that I left my full-time job because I didn't want to work 9 to 5 anymore. And apparently I wanted to work 7 because that's what I do now. But yes. I don't know what the future holds for virtual assistants, but I think that with the right people doing it and having the right mindset and really doing it for the right reasons, that it can be a really great thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Anything that you would tell people who are thinking about reaching out to a virtual assistant or, even reaching out to you specifically, any things that they should know?
I think that you should meet the person. And I know that that's not possible always. I definitely have clients that are not in the same state as me. And so whether that be a phone call or a Zoom meeting or whatever it is, I just would say don't start a business relationship with a virtual assistant via, the chat feature on their website or whatever the case may be. I just think when you can make that bond and that, that relationship and kind of see, okay, this is a real person and we kind of vibe and we, I like the personality and I think that we can get along. I think the work relationship and the friendship that evolves from it all just grows and runs smoother.
Yeah, because it sounds like it's really very much a relationship driven business.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
And what are the things that somebody should be asking if they're looking to hire a virtual assistant?
I think right off the bat, most people are going to want to ask about pricing. That's going to be, most people's first question is going to be pricing. But I think right off the bat, you should probably ask what all your virtual assistant that you're considering working with, what all they do, what is in their wheelhouse, because they are not a one size fits all helper, I guess you would say. And a lot of us offer things. Some of us, some others don't. Some of us answer the phone. Some of us can't do that. Some of us do bookkeeping. Some of us can't do that. So I think really just finding out what the virtual assistant that you're inquiring with actually offers and what her skill set or his skill set is, that's one of the things that I would want to find out right from the beginning.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense because I can certainly see how there would be a lot of variation in what one individual or one organization can offer compared to the next. So it makes perfect sense to say what are the things that you do when you do well versus, just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. Well, Dani, I appreciate you coming on. I am certain that when Rich listens, he'll know now what does a virtual assistant actually do. So you have demystified it for both of us. And you've certainly given me the confidence to know that there are real people out there helping organizations be successful. And it is not, like fraud, basically. But, this is real work to really help organizations do good things. So I appreciate you coming on and thank you for your time and sharing this information with us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking me. I really appreciate it. And I really enjoyed it. It was my first time. I was scared, but I enjoyed it.
Yay. Well, you did awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Gorilla HR Hub podcast. I hope that you have learned some things from Dani today about virtual assistants and all the different services that are out there.
That's it for this episode of the Gorilla HR podcast. We hope you found some unconventional wisdom and actionable advice to help you in your own HR journey. Remember, we're all working together to build better workplaces. Want to join in the conversation? Send us your questions, stories, and maybe even your own guerrilla tactics to podcast@gorilla-hr.com. And if you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, and share with your network. Until next time,